uh, just just a request for and you, if you think that I'm going very slow or very fast, or if you think I cut out, please interrupt me. Yeah.
I will do, Vidit, and I have to apologize. I forgot to press the record button, so we're only now just recording the seminar. So I don't know if you just want to just repeat the first screen again.
Yeah. So here I just wanted to say that the business dynamics have changed. So business dynamics since pandemic have changed. Earlier companies were striving for a market share, but now we also want to make sure that we get the revenue. Okay, not only market share. And most of these MNCs have mature supply chain, and with their transformation programs, they have already tried to improve the service quality and reduce spend. So going forward, finding internal cost saving opportunities and synergies is difficult. So we need to check on external synergies, and we need to collaborate more with our external suppliers or other MNCs companies to move forward. Yeah. And then in today's session, I'll be talking about collaboration opportunities mainly with regards to air cargo charters, air charters only. Yeah. So this is the background. So I was talking about the background, and I'll give you the background. I will lay the foundation, and I will give you, then I will state some challenges which MNCs face nowadays in terms of managing air cargo charters, and then solution. In solution, I will be talking about few examples, and then I will take you through what we have done correct and then few key takeaways, and then question and answer, and then if you have any comments. So here is the disruption timeline. Okay, I just wanted to put things into perspective. So it all, in this slide, I am talking about key events and their consequence, and then how it impacted our operations. Okay, so it all started with pandemic. Activity came to a standstill, and the impact was the oil and gas prices. The oil price went down, right? And that it impacted our margin. So here I'm showing how it impacted which area. So this oil price, pandemic, oil price went down, it impacted our margins. Then we had container crisis in H2 of 2020. We saw the container crisis, because of which there was very low reliability. The sea freight times was impacted by 30 to 60%, and the air freight was 60 to 75% unreliable. So only reliable, 20% of the times these schedules were reliable. And again, it impacted our lead time, correct? Then we had in H1 of 2021, last year, we had a shortage of labor and raw material. Because of high inflation, the commodity pricing went up. So the base metals like nickel, copper, steel, all the prices went up, and because of this, our cost to operations increased and our margins decreased. Then in H2 of 2021, we had Omicron, because of which there was Omicron surge in China, and we all started facing difficulties in getting mainly the electronic components and lithium-ion batteries from China. So all of these items, and because of this, the automobile pricing also went up, correct? Because the electronic components were not getting to us on time. Then we had in H1 of 2022, we had Ukraine and Russia conflict, because of which many charter flights, many planes were even destroyed. Many charter companies have to ground their flights. And because of which, there was unreliability. There was unreliability in the charter availability and in general air freight availability. When it comes to last year, H2 2022, again, we had a lot of uncertainty. We had strikes, trade barriers. Things have started to improve now, but we are just not there, correct? We still see a lot of uncertainty overall while managing the logistics. This is now I talk specifically about the air charter market. So the air charter market is still remains chaotic. So you see that the charter industry is more dependent on the is also dependent on the jet fuel price. So if you'll see here that the crude price is decreasing, the crude oil price is decreasing, but in red you see the jet fuel price. The jet fuel price is not decreasing in sync with the crude price. So here you see the crude price going down, but jet fuel price is still, it's going up. So there is no sync between the jet fuel price and crude price, correct? And then mostly when you talk with the industry experts and with these charter companies, they are also telling you that the pricing is mostly based on the charter availability. It is not based on the fuel price or the crude price. It is mainly based on the availability of the charter flight. If they don't have the flight available, then if there are very limited flights available, then the pricing will go up, and it depends where exactly the flights are. When you talk with this Cone Airways, this is the very big people, a very big player when it comes to charter flights. They are saying that capacity will be an issue for next 5 years. So people have invested in charter flights, but by the time the new flights come to the market, it will be 2025, 2027. So air charters will still be a problem because we still don't have new flights coming to the market. Then it is most of this capacity has been booked by the e-commerce companies like Amazon. So it is it becomes very challenging to deliver guaranteed space during peak season. Now it is okay, but after a few months, when there's a peak season, it will become very difficult, challenging to get this capacity, because most of the charter flights are booked either by the automobile industry or by to move their spare parts, or by e-commerce companies. And then IATA says that the airlines, they don't have the capacity to absorb the rising costs. So they have done a lot of they have suffered a lot from the pandemic, and going forward they don't have capacity to give away more, correct? So you will see more and more increase in the flight cost and the charter flight cost. And the airlines is reporting reduction in the schedule. So because of demand and supply, nowadays the airlines is also reporting a reduction in their schedule. So again, the charter availability will be a problem. Now, these are the challenges we generally face while managing air charters. So what happens is, we generally don't want to charter any aircraft. We generally want to ship our materials by normal air freight or by sea freight, correct? But because of the longer lead times, and because of unreliability, and because of urgencies, of course, the third reason is because of the urgencies, many oil field services companies, many companies have to charter, use charter flights. So there has been an unprecedented growth in the usage of charter flights since last 4 or 5 years. And these are some common issues which we face while managing charter flights. So first one is multiple teams. So with mergers and acquisitions, many companies are, we see a lot of mergers and acquisitions happening. Because of that, there are multiple teams and multiple systems. And within the same company, there are different group of people who are managing shipments going to a similar destination. So same company, but different people managing, shipments to a similar destination. Then there is freight competition or no co-loading. So we have freight forwarders and charter brokers. They are not necessarily interested in ride sharing. If you go to them, they will give you a quote for the charter flight. They will not see that, okay, there is some other MNC which also wants to ship their material to the similar destination. So let's do a chart. Let's share the ride, correct? They don't give those kind of options. You generally go to them, they give you a quote, and that's it. Then the third one is centralization. In many MNCs, we see a lot of centralization. So earlier, people were in US sitting in, if the shipment is moving from, if the cargo is moving from US, there will be people who are sitting in US and who are doing the transactions, the freight, coordinating with the freight forwarders and charter brokers and all of that. But because of the high cost, there is centralization. So there are people sitting in low cost countries, maybe Bogota, India or Far East Asia, who are trying to, move all these shipments. So they don't necessarily have the bandwidth or knowledge to move charter shipments. Air freight, regular air freight and sea freight is okay, but when it comes to route optimization and consolidation, they don't have that skill set, or they don't have the bandwidth to manage that. So we see a lot of opportunities been listed been missed because of this centralization and lack of skill set. Then there are inflated quotes. So whenever, when you go to a charter broker, they will give you a quote, and then sometimes they consider the depositioning cost or the cost to rest the crew. So if you're moving a charter flight from point A to B, they will think that, okay, this charter flight will go to point B, and maybe there will not be any demand at that country. Or if it goes from US to Caribbean, for example, it will go and sit in Caribbean unless there is a new demand, correct? So they will factor in the charge of depositioning. So for example, from Caribbean, if it needs to go to Europe, they will consider that, okay, over there I need to take the rest, I need to crew, my crew needs the rest, and then only it can move to some other country. So they will consider all that cost and give me the quote. So if there is a place where they can know, okay, from point A to B, again from B to C, they already have a demand, they will not factor in that cost. So there is a lot of missed opportunities because of all of these reasons. So there are many consolidation opportunities been missed, and there are many empty ferries. So charters going from point A to B, and then from B to C, they go empty because there was no planning been done in advance. And because of all of these reasons, we have to pay high cost. Okay, we don't want to ideally do charter flights. We do, and then whenever we do, because of all these reasons, we also end up paying very high cost. So in general, I just wanted to again put things into perspective. So what is happening is, when you talk about logistics spend, the logistics, this is the logistics, the tree, correct? So logistics spend is further divided into international and domestic. Domestic, of course, is the majority of the spend. International is maybe the less one. So 35% is international. And this is mainly for all of the MNCs, correct? When you see all of the MNCs, this is generally the spend. This is general bifurcation of the spend you will see, correct? Then international, you have freight and customs. Freight is almost 50%. And then you have air, different mode of transport. So air, sea, road, and others like courier. And then under air, there is charter flights. So the charter flights is almost, nowadays it is up to 45% of the total air freight. And when you, like for a company, for a like for an MNC, the charter flights contribute up to 5% of their overall logistics spend. More than $20 million per annum. For many of these companies, for Fortune 500 companies, maybe $20 million per annum, correct, on these charter flights. And the charter industry in year 2022, last year it was 48 billion. In next till by 2029, it would be 52 billion. And here I have listed some of the some of the operators, correct? So if you see most of these operators, maybe you people know, many of them, Chapman, ACS, all of them are seeing increase in the business, correct? So more and more activity since last 3-4 years. And then when you check with these people, they will tell you that there is maybe more than 25% potential to ride share, to by route optimization and consolidation, and by better planning. They will tell you that more than 25% of the cases, my flights are going empty because we don't plan to consolidate and route optimize, right? And this is the area where we want to target and bring some focus and try to manage the spend. So in next few slides, I will give you some examples, correct? So whenever you talk about charter flights, people will say that it is very urgent, it is very difficult to do any kind of consolidation and route optimization, because when you hear charter, it is urgent, and that's why you're trying to charter it, correct? So people think that it is very difficult to do any kind of consolidation, it is nearly impossible. So these are few examples since last, and I have many of these examples, correct, where just to prove that it is not that difficult. If you want to do it, there is a lot of potential, and we should try always to consolidate. And what we have done, and I'm trying to give you a few examples to prove that point. So this one is example since last year during the year-end rush, and there was a lot of backlogs at the airport. And in this case, we had a lot of cargo. We had cargo in Luxembourg, like in Europe, we had cargo. and we wanted that cargo, and we had some cargo in US, and we wanted to deliver that cargo to Caribbean. I used to manage, US and Caribbean, so I had like a lot of cargo available in Europe, in Middle East, which was required in Canada. Some cargo was required in Canada, some was US, and a lot of cargo I wanted to deliver into Caribbean also. So so what we did here, we did like a bus service, correct? Because it was very difficult to find charter flights. During the vacation season, it becomes very difficult to get the charter flights. They are very expensive. So what we did like a bus service. So the flight started from Luxembourg, it went to East Canada. So whatever cargo was required for Canada, we dropped it there. And this is the logical route. The logical route from Europe to Caribbean or Mexico or to Latin America is via Canada. So all the cargo which was required for Canada, we managed to drop at in East Canada. Then it came to US, where it delivered the cargo for US. The cargo which was available in Mexico and US, we tried to consolidate in Houston, and then it went to Port of Spain. So instead of doing multiple flights from Europe to Houston and from Houston to Port of Spain, we did one single charter flight, like a bus service, like stopping at one place, getting the cargo, offloading the cargo for that destination, loading the cargo from that location to other destinations. So we did all of that, and by doing that, we saved like 600 gallons of gasoline. We saved multiple charter flights, so around 300,000, more than 330K of savings here, correct? Then this is an example where we again wanted to move some cargo from Singapore to Caribbean, and like it was required on urgent basis, correct? So we wanted to do a charter flight, but it was very expensive to move a car. We don't generally get options to like a smaller charter flights in Far East Asia. We need to have a big Boeing kind of a flight, which has capacity of more than 50 metric tons to move from there. So instead of doing this big flight for a small cargo, we found an option to move that small cargo to Brussels. And then from Brussels, we tried to consolidate a lot of cargo. This was internal cargo we consolidated, and that we delivered to the end destination. So not much savings, but still, 67K of savings, because we avoided a complete, one big charter flight from, Singapore to Caribbean, correct? We split it into two, like we did a normal regular air freight and then a charter flight. And sometimes it is also very difficult to, like the airlines are not, when there is an odd dimension cargo, it becomes very difficult to guarantee space. So we managed to move this on a regular flight, but from here, Brussels, the space is always tight. So we tried to do a charter flight. We consolidated a lot of cargo there, and we avoided, again, a lot of cost savings there. So those two examples were internal SLB examples. And then, we also tried to prove that there are not only internal, correct, we can also try to do external. So these are examples where we had other suppliers. So other suppliers or other MNCs and other, OFS companies with whom we collaborated. So in this example, we had like 23 metric ton of cargo, which we wanted to move from Canada to Guyana. And then the big charter flight, like half of the space for this big charter flight would have been gone wastage, because we had only 23 metric ton. And then you get smaller charter flights, which are like, 15 metric ton. And then either you have to book two charter flights, two smaller ones, or book a bigger one, correct? And it becomes very difficult also to get, so many smaller charter flights at the same time. So we had an option. We only had one option to do a big charter flight, more than 50 tons of capacity. So what we did, instead of doing it from Canada, we brought that shipment to Houston. And in Houston, we started to we coordinated with all our suppliers, other companies. And instead of moving 23 metric ton, we consolidated 62 metric tons. And this was done within, a couple of days. By the time the shipment came, by the time this original cargo came from Canada in 3-4 days, we already consolidated by talking with our suppliers and other companies, 62 metric tons, correct? So instead of shipping 23 metric tons and shipping the flight vacant, we managed to fill it. 62 metric tons, more than 530K of savings. And similarly, more equal amount, like a lot of amount of gasoline and GHG savings also. The second example is where we had a flight going. We had an OFS company shipping from Miami to Guyana, and then the charter flight was supposed to come empty, and we had some material, correct? So we knew this charter flight was coming empty because we were talking, by doing this kind of talking with all the suppliers and everybody, we knew that this flight it was coming empty. So instead of bringing it on air freight, regular air freight, the regular air freight costing was 3 days lead time, it was costing $60,000. Like immediate flight, it was costing us $87,000. So instead of going by this, we just contacted this charter operator. His flight was coming empty, so we put it on that and we moved it at 40K. So even if you compare the 40K cost with this 2-3 days also, it saved us $20,000. But if we wanted in the next flight, it saved us like $40,000, correct? So what I wanted to highlight here is that there are many opportunities to collaborate, correct? And we need by doing this, all of this collaboration was happening on phone and WhatsApp and on regular emails, correct? So there was no platform where we can actively collaborate with each other. And then all the freight forwarders and the charter brokers, like they are not helping, like they wanted to help, but who will take the lead, correct? So we wanted something which can be free of cost, where people can go and collaborate with each company, with other companies, correct? So this is what I'm trying to do, correct? And with few of my colleagues, what we are trying to do is that in Q1 of 2022, we kind of leverage internal synergies. In Q2, we did kind of proof of concept, where we try to also collaborate and with other suppliers and other MNC companies. In Q3 of last year, we tried, I tried to present in seminars and started engaging with global shippers and charter companies. We continue to find strategic partners who can be part of this initiative. And then like start of this year, I'm working, we are working on building something, correct? Building a charter consortium, a charter share where we can share ride, correct? So no fees to access the platform, because it has to be like if we start again making money, then people will think that it is money making, correct? So we wanted to keep it free of cost for the chart, and this is mainly for the global shippers to communicate and collaborate. It will give an opportunity to consolidate and route optimize. It will also give real-time visibility where the charter flights are available, and it will give an ability to connect with shippers, brokers, and other flight operators. So if anybody wants any more information about this, they can contact me, and I can give them more details about it. And this is I just wanted to share, correct? This is how they can get in connect with me. I'm already a member of CLTNA, and these are my details and my personal experience, correct? So I guess this is what I wanted to share today, and then we are open for any questions and comments, and we can do that now. Thank you everyone for listening.
Hey Vinny, thank you so much. You took a breather. That was a lot of words that you kind of went through on that presentation. So listen, really fascinating. And it's not that often that we kind of hear about this kind of initiative. It was driven by very particular circumstances, and it sounds like you're still going through that. The market is still shaken up, which means there's, you're getting all those huge benefits from that collaborative way of working that you've introduced. So I will invite questions. I know typically we don't get questions until after the talk, because people don't want to miss it by typing. But I have one for you straight off. So typically people would expect freight forwarders, their job is to help consolidate, to get that efficiency on the load. So why do you think that kind of doesn't really happen on the charter market?
Yeah, because like it is also their business, right, to do charter flights. And so when you talk about sea industry, you'll find that many freight forwarders collaborate. So if I have a container going to Nhava Sheva in India, for example, the freight forwarder will they already know, okay, that these people are doing Nhava Sheva, and they will collaborate. But in whatever load they find, they will collaborate. But air charter, sometimes it is also, people think it is very dynamic. People think that it is not, like you have worked with oil and gas industry, correct? So we know it is dynamic, but there is still a possibility, correct? Many people think that when the OFS company or MNC says that it is urgent, they think that it cannot be consolidated. We just want to, they just want to move. And then when the shipper also thinks that it is very difficult, if something happens, if we try to consolidate, and if there is if we miss the deadline, correct, then the stakes are very high. So because of all these reasons, people don't want to risk. So it is from the freight forwarders point that it is not their business. They want to just move the box, right? And then many people do work with different companies, correct? So they don't actively collaborate because of competition. They don't want to co-load. And then because people think that it is very dynamic, they don't want to take the risk. So this is what we are trying to do. The proof of concept was to make sure that, yeah, it's dynamic, but it is still possible. There is still a chance. There is still a chance to do. So these are the reasons, main reasons.
Guys, I have to say, I mean, just because my initial thought would be, when you first suggested this as an approach, I imagine most people said, well, that can't work. You're talking about our competitors, the people in our supply chain. They're just not used to kind of, and then you're there from just one company coordinating it. So I think it's testament to, your ability to, I guess, convince them that this is a better option. Obviously, the dollars that are saved help, and that kind of, everybody benefits from that. But I mean, to actually get this in place, I imagine there was a lot of doubters whether this could actually work.
Yeah, and then there is also no platform, correct? So like now there is no platform, but we are working on a platform where we can give the information that so and so charter is going from point A to point B. So if this is the date it is going, if there is something which you want to ship, you can get in touch with these people, correct? From B, when it reaches point B, if you have anything which will be ready on this date, okay, you have a flight there, correct? And it is free, it is like open. If you want to take it to Europe or some other place, maybe you have that visibility. So it is mainly because there is no, one other reason is there is no platform here, where people are trying to give that visibility free of cost. There is information out there, but the information is also not accessible to everybody. It is very specific. So this kind of a free platform will help people to collaborate with each other, and then the freight forwarders will definitely help. Yeah,
absolutely. So let me move on to some of the questions that we've got. So the first one is from Jeff Moller. So shifting from one airline carrier to another, were there any other costs such as transloading or storage that is incurred? I think a couple of the examples you gave were, kind of went to multiple different flight legs.
Right. Yeah. So there will be, because this was, mainly this was internal, correct? So it was very difficult to manage. But once we have the platform, we will have a option to, pass that cost to the people who are collaborating, correct, to the MNCs which are collaborating. But yes, definitely there will be a cost whenever it goes from one place to other place. So there will be an option for people to bid, correct? Suppose for regular air freight, if the cost is like $15,000 for that kind of a cargo, you'll have and somebody is booking a flight, correct? So some companies already booking a charter flight and they are ready to pay $50,000 for that flight, and they have a space. They have 2 metric ton of space available, correct, of that volume available. And then there will be an opportunity that you bid for that space. So if you go to the regular air freight, if the cost is $5,000, you bid for it. You say, okay, I will pay 4,000. If the company is okay, then you collaborate. Then we just say, okay, then these are the people you need to collaborate with it, correct? And then there will be an opportunity for them to, adjust the cost and all of that.
Okay, I get that, but the question I think was specifically around, because you're touching the ground more than you would have, because you're going to be, at one airport, you've got all the handling costs, the transloading, etc. Did that kind of not create an additional cost from that?
No, yeah. So in all of these, correct. In for example, in this example, correct, when we said 335K of savings, if we would have done multiple flights and without the stops, it would have costed us much more. So the cost of doing regular air freight or the cost of doing multiple flights would have been more than, and then most of these spots, most of these stops are logical stop. Sometimes we also need to do fuel. For example, when the flight leaves from Europe, it generally takes a stop in Canada, for refueling. So that is an opportunity for them to, offload and load and do all of that. So sometimes they have to change the port, like airport, instead of going to some place in some remote island, they need to fuel in Miami or Houston. So there is a cost, but then there is also a lot of cost savings which you will avoid by doing regular air freight. And then people generally compare the cost to the cost of the operations, correct? Sometimes when it is really urgent, and OFS company, they will just pay money, correct? If it is charter flight is costing $100,000, if you say this will cost 50K or 80K, or they'll say okay, correct, because it is costing them low, not. Or if you say that okay, by doing this you will deliver on time, at least by now there is so much unreliability, correct? If you say that okay, you have to pay $5,000 more, but you'll 100% get it because it is a charter flight, people will pay that amount because they want that cargo on time. So it is mix match,
Yeah. I got it. Okay. So let's move on to another question from Marion Robson. So excellent presentation. Your cases are compelling in demonstrating cost savings. What response are you getting to this consolidation proposal?
Yeah. So what has happened is I started, along with it, and I was very much driven to do this, correct? And I started last year. I tried to gather some examples. I also tried to communicate in some seminars. And then I found out that only talking will not help. There has to be a platform available and people need to see a demo, how it is happening. So I've already kind of, it is all, me and, some of the, interested colleagues, correct, trying to given where we are first trying to do a pilot, correct, and to show people that okay, how it is working. So far like people are interested, but we have so far not advertised it also widely, because we understood that only talking and showing examples will not help. People will like to see some web, some portal, correct, where we can show them a demo how it happens. So we are working on that phase now, and we will be doing more of marketing and getting that, we will engage with more people, maybe in H2 of this year. Currently, we are still working on the platform, trying to get it ready, because we are doing this outside of our work. We have our regular work, and then we are doing it outside of it. So it takes a lot of time and energy to do something like this. So if anybody hearing this presentation is really interested in what I'm doing, please send me a note, and you're most welcome, correct? So far we are doing it everything, there is no freight forwarder or a charter company involved. We are just doing it out of us to make sure to help companies collaborate, correct? Because we heard people want to collaborate, we should collaborate, but there is nothing out there to really collaborate. And building such a platform is not that expensive. It is like few $1,000s, but if it solves a bigger problem, then okay, we are happy to spend that money, correct, and to build it there. But so far the response is okay, but we have not still, we are still working on the platform to make it more.
Okay. thank you. I think that certainly answered the question. I mean, it's interesting. I've worked with a lot of MNCs in the logistics side, and I'm just thinking. So, oil field services such as SLB is in. Clearly, you can see that you need to move equipment usually quite quickly in incredibly long distances, and often to remote places where there's not always a scheduled air service. But I mean, I was thinking as well about things like the big food providers. So I think Cargill are one of the largest logistics operations in the world. And they're not even a logistics company. And if you think of kind of other kind of more of these primary resource organizations, I've worked a little bit in the mining industry as well, where again, I don't think Air Charter is going to be working with mining, but certainly for their ocean and their rail activity, a lot of scope for collaboration there. And I think that helps everyone, from the operators, whether it's the railroads or the shipping lines, through to the miners as well. So I think, yeah, you've really kind of proven that something like this can actually work. So the next question we've got is from Coyote, who asks, says this, a good innovative to get a collaborative platform. I think as we're hearing, how much is an African hub being considered with regarding air freight?
Yeah, so this is Charter's, correct? So we are working on the platform, and then whenever any company is doing any charter flight out of Africa or going there, correct, even that can be listed here. So this is not specifically for any market. Yeah, so how much is African hub considered? I don't understand. Yeah, definitely there is high volumes of shipments, cargo going from US to Africa, and then Africa is a very tricky market, I know, to send stuff quickly, because there are multiple, there will be multiple, flights, correct? Because from US, it may not be a direct flight. So definitely, it's a big opportunity there. The aim for now is to, just have the platform ready and put for some examples there and give an opportunity for people to collaborate. And it can be anything. It can be here to Saudi, on the way, it can stop in Europe. So it depends on, so the platform, on the platform, you can, if you do a charter flight, you can put it on the platform that I have a charter flight, I have this much of space vacant, is going from point A to point B. Do you want to collaborate? It can go to, maybe it can start from, later on, it can start from Africa. It is coming to Europe or US, correct? So that kind of stuff.
I think actually, one interesting element of this, obviously with the air charter market, it's where these maybe irregular or emergency shipments are being made, which are obviously kind of a volume to actually fill air cargo equipment. If you think there are events, whether that's, look at all the material that is flying towards Ukraine at the moment, and look at all of maybe the aid, which also is shipped by air where there's natural disasters. There is a lot of one-way cargo traffic, which has been done by these irregular air charters. Would you even see that there could even be, opportunistic? At the moment, you've talked about being driven by the requirement that you get. So you're there in the distribution team in SLB. You are told that we need to move things between A and B. Is there a way in which you can actually look and say, look, I'm aware of a lot of capacity, which is kind of, available because of one-way charters flying around? Maybe there's a way that we can kind of, utilize that. So you can kind of almost create the demand before it comes to you in SLB. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. We have such we have such examples, correct? For example, from Miami to Caribbean or Latin America, we know there is a lot of demand, and we had a lot of issues, getting space on the flight, because, there is only limited flight operators who are working, but nobody wants to, so after a while, we will see that, correct? That, okay, we see regularly so many charters going from point A to point B. So somebody will take the lead and, just put like a regular one, correct? Where people can collaborate and do. Yeah, but things like that will definitely happen.
Yes, yeah. Well, I used to live in Ecuador, and we used to have a lot of flights leaving full of flowers, and they weren't arriving full of very much. And that means that became a potential hub where you've got a traffic of flights coming into Latin America,
Right.
which could then so just as I think the whole concept kind of has so many different angles to it, Vineet.
Right.
Okay, so I think we've exhausted the questions that we had on the chat so far. I don't know if I mentioned already, but Vineet has kindly offered to share a copy of the presentation, which what we'll do is we'll send out that as well as the link to where you can sign in and tune in to watch this again. I think with just a few minutes that we have left, so Vineet, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time of putting all this together, talking us through it. It really is quite a fascinating topic, and I just hope everybody else that joined was able to enjoy it as much as I personally did. I think if anybody has any follow-ups or other things, or certainly if you'd like to get in touch with Vineet, I'll also share your email address as well. Of course, if you join CILT here in North America, you can see Vineet most months when we have our monthly forum of members. So hopefully we'll see most of you again in the future. So I'll kind of really just thank everybody for joining tonight, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you again, Vineet.
Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.